Hey guys, it's Sherry Vegas and welcome back to my channel. So in this tutorial today, we're going to be using resin and flowers to create some really elegant looking coasters. A few items to do this tutorial is you're going to need some sort of silicone mold. I am using the Shattered Shapes coaster mold, and this one is sort of like the triangle. Kind of reminds me of pizza slices looking, but it's meant to be like geo sort of style. I do have a discount code for Shattered Shapes, so that will be down in the description box. You're going to need some dry flowers. So the ones I'm using today are just from my Amazon store, which is down in the description code as well. So they're dried pressed flowers and some whatever color pigments you want to use. Some resin. I'm using the crystal cast resin from Make Art Resin today, but you can use whatever epoxy casting resin you have on hand. I just really like this brand. And then a gold gilding pen so you can do some really pretty edges. So once you get all that together, we can get started.
I'm using an epoxy casting resin today. This is a 2:1 ratio resin, and I just mix that up. The reason why I like to use this is just because it gets less bubbles and has been designed to work for casting, which I am doing because I'm using a silicone mold. Then I just disperse out my pigments. So today I have got the opal pigment from Archery Creation, which I've got to say is one of my absolute favorites. Then I'm using the Just Resin Titanium White and adding a few drops of some white alcohol ink. Then with some gold leaf flakes, I like to keep these from other artworks, the sort of flyaways with them, and I keep them in a little bag and then use them for smaller projects like this. Then I am just dividing up my resin. I'm only using about probably 20 mils of the opal and then 20 mils into the white, and only a really tiny bit into my gold leaf because it's going to be put into resin anyway. I've mixed about 300 mils in total for this size mold that I'm going to be using. Now, if your mold is dirty, just give it a bit of a clean out. One of my favorite ways is just getting some painter's tape and using that to pick out any little bits and pieces because you don't want it to be set into your resin. Then I just divide up my resin into each part of my silicone mold. With my 300 mils, the majority of that I'm going to keep clear. And then I just divide that up, making sure that it fully covers the whole surface of the mold. Then I add in my little gold leaf bits and slowly kind of disperse them out with my paddle pop stick into my resin, just in the corners, and having it sort of really softly sort of expand out into the rest of the mold. Once I'm happy with how my gold leaf little flakes are looking in my resin, then I start placing my flowers down, and you can do whatever color or design that you want to do. I'm just doing this really randomly and sort of keeping it in the middle of my silicone molds, not too close so they cover the gold leaf, but also not on the edges because I am planning on putting my opal and white along the edges. I got these off Amazon, and you can find them in my Amazon store. So these have already been pressed for me, and they've been preserved to really lock in the colors, which is great because that way they're not going to change over time in my resin. And you can also press flowers yourself if you want to, just fresh flowers from the garden using a microfiber press or the traditional way. It's completely up to you, but I like these ones because they were already pressed and preserved for me. Then I just applied my titanium white along the outer edge of my coaster mold, and then on the inside of that I just applied the opal from Archery Creation. This is just acting as a border to my coasters, and I'm going to get a really pretty soft swirl effect with this. You can use whatever colors you like, but I think the white and the opal go really well for this sort of style of coaster. Then I use my heat gun, and this is just to help the colored resin expand out a bit into my clear resin. And after that, I just do my second round of colored resin, just slightly a little bit more on the inside of the first titanium white and opal ring.
So if you don't know already, I do have a TikTok and Instagram, so do not forget to follow me on those two. On my Instagram, I show you a little bit more of my lifestyle and stories, so like kind of what's happening in the moment. On my TikTok, I put up a lot of experimental pieces, some really quick, like 1 little minute tutorials, and answer a lot of questions there. So it's definitely worth going and following me on both. And also, I just want to let you guys know, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the notification bell. I've noticed a really big drop in my view rate just because people are no longer getting notified by YouTube, or I'm not coming up on your subscribers page. A lot of people have messaged me saying that they never ever see me on the subscribers page, and they have to go and search, or they know when I post something because I post it up on Instagram and they know to go over to YouTube. So if you want to make sure that YouTube lets you know every single time I upload, don't forget to hit that notification bell.
To create some more swirls in your white and opal resin, you can always get your paddle pop stick and swirl it on through. Just be careful not to over blend. Then I just mix up some top coat to pour over my coasters now that the first layer of resin has set. This is the Make Art top coat, which obviously has been designed just for the purpose of top coating. I try not to use the heat gun too much on my silicone molds because it can damage it. So make sure when you do use your heat gun over the silicone molds, you put the heat on low and you don't use the highest power on it. You always keep it really low. And then I just get my paddle pop stick and make sure that all of my resin is covering right up to the edges of the mold.
So the reason why I decided to do the top coat in the mold was because I had just this like tiny little bit of leeway between where the resin was and the top of the mold, and instead of taking my coasters out, taping them off, and then doing my top coat, I just thought it'd be easier to do it in the mold because I hadn't filled it the whole way up to the top, so that made it a lot easier top coating it. And also another reason why I did the top coat was there was just like 1 or 2 tiny little bits where the flowers were just slightly poking out, so by doing a top coat it just stops that from happening and just protects your coasters.
With some fine grit sandpaper, I'm just using 800 wet and dry sandpaper. I'm going along the edges of my coasters and just buffing them up so that way when I do apply my sort of gold gilding to the edges, it sticks really well because it's got something to grip to. If I left the edges super shiny like the way that resin is, it wouldn't stick as well and I'd have to do quite a few layers. And I'm just using my 18 karat gold leafing pen. This one's from Krylon and I bought it from Archery Creations, which is a Melbourne based art supply store. And you can see by just that gold, it's just so beautiful. This is really easy to apply to your coasters. I really like this method. There are a few different ways that you can add gold sort of gilding or metallic effect to the borders of your resin, but I find this is one of the easiest ways. Sometimes you do have to do 2 coats, but normally it's pretty good with just 1. step is optional if you just want to add a little bit of the gold, just going right along the edge of your coaster to create a border. I feel like this just sort of finishes it off and really ties that gold in.
Thank you guys so much for watching that tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed making it. If you're new to my channel, please do hit subscribe, as I'd love to get to that 100,000 mark so close. So do not forget to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified, as I know a lot of you guys are not getting notified anymore because of the YouTube sort of like algorithm that's going on. And don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, as that really helps my page out. Thank you guys so much for watching.